Hey, be a squid and subscribe to my mediocrity. How's it going, everybody? Today we are doing a little bit of a Musa guide. It's been a minute. I know I'm a fucking asshole and I just haven't been uploading. This game just takes over my life and I never want to record. I'm that guy. Anyway, today we're doing a PvE Musa guide. I'm gonna go over some PvP stuff, but I'm not really all that adept in PvP yet. I can clap some cheeks. Don't get the wrong fucking idea. You look at me funny on the road, I bet you sweet ass I will try and kill you, and I might hold an L, but that's not the point. But for today, we're gonna focus on grinding it out and helping you guys understand the Musa on console and just going over combos, a little bit of tips, tricks that you can utilize when you're grinding, so on and so on. So without further ado, let's get into the skills. Alright, so I'm just gonna be straight up and tell you right out the gate. The most important thing once you hit level 56 is go down to polys, grind yourself a bunch of skill points, and just hit it up. Your awakening is going to require a fuck ton of skills that you're going to want to put some focus into, to be honest. So let me just be completely clear right now so nobody gets confused. I want to make sure you guys are following appropriately. The skills that I am about to mention are the ones you're going to want to focus on first, and then you can, focus on stuff afterwards for awakening. This is for awakening right now. So you're going to want below the belt, Crust Crusher, Foul Play, Backflow, Projection, Crosscut, Musa Resolve, Twister, Dash Slash, Fiery Crevice, and Counter Assassination, Musa Soul, Fiery Angel, and that's essentially it. Spinner, not really that important, gotta be honest, and you could probably do without, what's that other one? Hold on one second. One Step Back, you don't really need this either. This is like a decent move, but you really don't. I hardly use this, and even in PvP, I still hardly use this, but it's a nice kind of like spacing move, so you can get it once you have more skills, but if you're just starting out and you're in the low skill point pool, this is really not a priority at all. As for the most important ones you need to level up, below the belt and Crust Crusher and Crosscut. These three are your main abilities that you need, and I mean, let me just tell you real quick, you need to level these up, motherfucker, okay? All of these abilities do so much damage, and they essentially are going to be what carries you through PvE and PvP. Without these abilities, you are fucking nothing. Below the belt specifically gives you super armor, which you can also use into backflow, so whenever you use below the belt, you can press RT immediately afterwards in order to hit crosscut, or not crosscut, I'm sorry, backflow. And this is like a super armor rotation. So below the belt, super armor into backflow, extra super armor, so you're taking minimal damage as well as being able to dish out a fuck ton of damage. The Musa is an AP monkey, so this is incredibly important to have the super armor rotation that does a lot of damage. And the reason you also want projection is that you can actually swap from your pre-awakening to awaken via projection if you ring slot it, which I will go over in a moment once we go through combos and whatnot. And crosscut, once again, is your super armor. So if you're not going to do below the belt into backflow, you're going to do below the belt into crosscut, then backflow, and that is super armor rotation, something like that. So depending on how you want to do that, you can shorten it up or make it lengthier. It all depends on you. Typically, you want to do all three, so that way you have the longest super armor as possible, and whenever you're fighting somebody else, you're super armor trading with these three abilities. And everything else in here can just, suck a dick. You just fucking get the abilities. But those three and whatever, those are your most important. Also, Foul Play, something you're absolutely going to fucking need because this is your big Bambino damage, so you don't want to miss out on this. So you absolutely should get this right away. Now, for pre-awaken, there's a few moves that you're going to want to focus on. I'm not going to go over everything because that is a fuck ton of skills, but I will go over the absolute most needed. That is very important. Gotta be honest, half this bullshit in here I don't even use, but I will talk about that in a later video when I do a more advanced, intermediate, whatever you want to call it, guide. So one of the first things you're going to want is Blind Thrust. The reason being is that this is your crit rating buff, so this is incredibly fucking important because you can actually stack crit. So one of your skill add-ons is going to be for this or whatever, and you can basically stack a fuck ton of crit with this ability. So you're going to want this right out the gate. Then you're going to want Chase 2. Reason being is this is the only way you're going to be able to dash infinitely as long as you have pots and whatnot. So Chase 2 must get. Now, just to kind of mention Gale for a minute, this is not an ability I use too often in PvE. In PvP, it's pretty damn great, especially if you get a stun. But in PvE, I do use it as filler every now and then, so I did end up getting this ability. So it's kind of give or take, to be honest. But I wanted to mention it that this is an ability that I use quite more frequently than the others. Then you're going to want to grab Musa Spirit. Reason being is that this is how you're going to regenerate your energy, or WP, whatever you want to call it. It's very important for sustainability because if you don't have pots, this is your only ace in the hole, and it is very, very good, might I add. Now, Dragon's Bite is once again your other ability. This is actually your opener, so essentially you go Dragon's Bite into Blind Thrust, and those are your two abilities that you're opening with. Not to mention it has a forward guard, so this makes this ability very good for closing the distance, as well as it's kind of safe. Not to mention during PvP, it actually has a stun, so this is very, very good. Now, Blooming is an ability that I actually see a lot of Musas sleeping on. I really never see any other Musa use this. Me and my buddy, we use Blooming quite often, but when it comes to other Musas, I really never see anyone use this shit, and it's kind of weird, but I do have a skill add-on that I'll talk about momentarily after we go through combos on why I use Blooming. But even if I didn't have a skill add-on, it's still a relatively good move that does a fuckload of damage. So I maxed this bitch out all the way, and honestly, it's been a phenomenal grinding experience with Blooming. I gotta be honest, the damage on it is immense. Not to mention with the skill add-on, it makes killing just monsters in general way, way easier. And then following that, we have our Rising Storm, which I maxed this out once again because it is one of your core combo abilities. Not to mention the critical hit rate is pretty damn nice, and you also get DP for using this skill. So plus 20 DP, gotta be honest, you can't really. That's kind of huge. Obviously, that's the absolute Rising Storm version, but personally, this is what I like. The DP was really fucking good. Gotta be honest, I can't really deny that. And then from that, we go down to your extra statistics with, sword training, maneuver training, infinite mastery, and skilled hunter. You're going to want to get all of these before you get anything else. Obviously, the other stuff is super important, but this stuff is actual, stats that you are going to need for grinding. So you're going to need to prioritize these right away. And that's where we're going to leave it for now, because the rest of the stuff is kind of just if, ands, and buts that I don't really want to talk about in this video. I'll save it for a different one, but those are the most important abilities that you're going to want to focus on first. So now we're going to go ahead and go over some combos. So when I say some combos, realistically, I use one combo and a little bit of some variations that shorten it up in certain situations for like PvP or mobs that don't necessarily, do much. So the main combo is going to be Dragon's Bite into Blind Thrust, and you're going to Absolute Rising Storm, and then from here you're going into Blooming, Projection Swap, Below the Belt, into Dash Slash, then you're going into Cross Cut, Backflow, Crush Crusher, and then Foul Play. And that is the full combo. Now let me be completely clear. Not every mob is going to be needed to hit with that. Like if, for example, when I grind at Manchums, I shorten that combo up immensely because I basically one-shot Manchums, so there's not really a need for me to do all that extra bullshit. That combo is specifically used for places like trees, Ackman, Histria, stuff like that. Anything that is lower than those places, you are never going to need that insanely long combo, and it is going to take some practice. It took me like a couple weeks just hitting that combo over and over and over again before I finally can do it like effortlessly, and sometimes I still fuck it up. So don't worry about it if you kind of get a little, a little frustrated that you're messing up a combo, you're doing things out of order. It takes a minute, so don't worry about it. Now, to shorten that combo up just to get people started, the main points you're going to want to focus on is Dragon's Bite and Blind Thrust. These are going to be your crit buffs that are going to allow you to do an insane amount of damage. So those, no matter how you do a variation of this combo, those two never change. You are always going to open with Blind Thrust and Dragon's Bite, or Dragon's Bite then Blind Thrust, I apologize. But those are the ones you need all the time. Now, if you don't want to do Rising Storm, for example, maybe you feel unsafe or something, what you can go ahead and do is Y-Swap, which will allow you to just go into your Crescent Blade, which it gives you, I believe, I think it's an iframe or it's super armor. I actually don't remember. Oh, it actually doesn't give you anything like that. It gives you a forward guard. I apologize. So whenever you swap, you have a forward guard whenever you go into your transitional fucking bullshit. And the same thing is applied when you're going into pre-awaken. So whenever you're just swapping in general, you get forward guard, so it allows you to block. So you go boom, boom, swap, and then you would go into something like this, and then you just basically are cutting out Blooming and Rising Storm and going into a shorter combo, which that's not really all that bad. So Blooming is important because it does give you a fuck ton of damage just out of its own damage realistically, but on top of that, the skill add-on I have adds 20 damage to monsters, which, you know, for things like Ackman, Trees, Hystria, that's pretty damn huge. Now there is a few little tips and tricks that I kind of want to go over for whenever you're fighting mobs, especially heavy mobs that are, you know, enclosing on you and there's like 5 to 6 or even more. If you're a crazy person like me and do massive pulls, you need to know how to move around these mobs in order to be effective. And if you're in a group for, you know, something like Trees, you need to know how to get behind mobs so that way you can hit them in the back and do more damage. Especially if someone's popping elixirs and whatnot, then it's very important to get behind them if they have assassination elixirs. So if you look at this guy, right, you can dash kind of towards him and it doesn't really go through him or anything like that. This is super annoying because you end up getting body blocked, which really just is shitty. So if there's like a wall of enemies in front of me, so just pretend there's like 3-4 enemies here. If I tried to dash forward, it would technically just get, you know, I would stop on them and I wouldn't, you know, I could slide to the side. But once again, if there's more enemies, you know, lined up in front, I can't slide to the left or right. So it's just going to hold me in place. But if you look at this, we turn around, we can dash through them, which allows us to, you know, get behind them and do a combo. So essentially we would do something like this and then bop it a boopy, we can hit a full combo and do an immense amount of damage from the back. This can also be done in Awakening as well, which is super good because then you can do something like this and get behind them and hit Musa Spirit or Musa, I forgot which Musa thing it is, but yeah, it's also a stun. So in PvP, this is the same logic applies. You can't actually dash through someone, you have to do it in reverse, which it exposes your back to someone, which is kind of dangerous, but if you can get it and hit it right, you can actually do some nasty shit. Especially if you do like something like this, and then you go into Gale, and then get a knock up, and then Rising Storm, and then you just get a full combo essentially, and they're fucking dead off that shit. If you have the AP, nobody's living through that. Now, your abilities for life stealing is Fiery Crevice as well as Foul Play, so whenever you use Foul Play, this is your life steal. So you're going to want to combine these together. If you're ever losing a fuck ton of health, typically what I like to do is I'll hit Crush Crusher into Foul Play, and then I'll go into Fiery Crevice. Fun fact about Fiery Crevice, this is a spammable ability. So if I just press the B button, which is how you do Fiery Crevice, right? If I just press it, like you hear me, I'm pressing it, it doesn't spam it, right? It actually goes on cooldown, and I actually, like you see, I can't spam it. However, if you hold RB, right, and then you press the B button, you can actually spam Fiery Crevice, which is, I don't know why you can do this, but you can do this, and this is one of your insanely damaging abilities. It does a fuck ton of damage. So if you catch somebody on the ground and you hit them with a couple of those, gotta be honest, they're probably dead. Like, just to kind of put things into perspective, right? Let's just go ahead and just boom, boom into this, and then bop, and then boom, boom, boom. 3 Fiery Crevices before somebody can get up. Typically, you know, somebody has faster get-ups and whatnot, but that's a lot of damage to somebody. Another spammable ability, which I found this out on my own because I didn't even know it was a thing, and it's kind of dumb. It's your Twister ability. So once again, if you just hold RB and then A, typically it spams, right? But like, it only spams every now and then. You can't like heavy spam it. So it's kind of like a baby spam, so it's not nearly as cool, right? But if you go left to right and wiggle the stick, you can do this, where it spams it faster. This uses stamina, right? But you can spam this faster, and this is your ability that has like plus 1000 damage or whatever. So this is huge. It's obviously, once again, not the end all or be all to end all situation, but you can do this, and I don't know what application this has, but once again, if you get them on the ground, this is a move that does pretty good damage in PvP. PvE, this is obviously not so much in terms of something that you're doing, but I sometimes do it as filler. If I have a cooldown or something that I'm waiting on, I'll just sit here and do this for a minute and just, you know, get my WP back and keep it up. So Twister does give you a fuck ton of WP, as you can tell. So when it comes off a cooldown, you just end up recovering the WP while doing a decent bit of damage. So this is how I keep my WP up quite often. And overall, that's kind of really it when it comes to the combos and whatnot. Your main combo is the one that I showed you, and this is your insane damaging ability. Any variation of this combo works. You can do whatever the fuck you want realistically. So that's pretty much it. Oh, I never actually went over Black Spirit Rages, so let me actually talk about this for a minute because this is very important. So lock projection, this shit's garbo in my opinion. I don't like using it. It's super laggy on console, and even when I'm PvE grinding, I fucking hate it. Absolute Dragon Bite, once again, super garbo, considering that you use Dragon Bite for literally everything. This is so unimportant and not necessary at all. Everything else, though, you can leave on. So we'll talk about Fiery Angel first. So whenever you do Fiery Angel, it's forward B, right? But if you press forward B and then RT, what happens is, see, look, this is the distance, right, with Fiery Angel. But if you do the RT version, what you can do is go extremely far. So boom, and you see how I'm running super fucking far. Regular Fiery Angel doesn't do that, and it uses 25% of your Black Spirit Rage. So this is super good for closing the distance. You're still completely unsafe in Fiery Angel, so it is not the god tier move to save the day, but to close the distance between mob to mob and to do a little bit of damage is nice. However, Below the Belt has a Black Spirit Rage as well. So whenever you do Black Spirit Rage with Below the Belt, you press RT as you're doing your RB hit. So it's on what is it called? Dash slash. So whenever you hit dash slash, you hit RT at the same time. So you're pressing RB and RT together in order to get the Black Spirit Rage, which it'll use 10%. I use this consistently in anything that I'm doing because it does an immense amount of damage. So we do this and then boom, dash slash Black Spirit Rage, and it does a good bit of damage. And realistically, that's kind of it. There's not really a whole lot else that I really need to talk about. I mean, that's like the epitome there. Let's go ahead and move on to skill add-ons. Alrighty, so now we're in the skill add-on section. Realistically, just copy this shit down. This is what I use. I've been using it for a minute now. I honestly don't have any issues with this build whatsoever. It's decent for PvP, pretty good for PvE content as well. It's a little mix of both because, you know, I play on the Arsha server sometimes, so whenever I get ran up on, I need to make sure I have a little bit of something, so it definitely helps out. If you have any questions or suggestions about the skill add-ons, by all means, go ahead and drop them down below. I'm open to criticism as well as just extra suggestions to try things out and whatnot, but overall, I've been using this for about 3 weeks now, and goddamn, dude, this shit slaps so hard, and I have realistically no idea what I would change anything about. Like, I don't see it. I've looked at all the skills. Me and a buddy of mine, we checked out a bunch of things and we were just like, dude, there's nothing here. This is like the absolute thing that makes the most sense, especially for the combo that I showed you. It makes the most sense to use these skill add-ons. But anyway, boys, that's pretty much going to be it for the video. I'm sorry this was turbo long, but I mean, there's a lot of information. There's no way to condense info like that. It's just really, it's just insane. It's genuinely insane. I'm sorry if it was all over the place and whatnot. I did the best that I could, but without making this video 40 years longer, let's go ahead and end it here. So I will talk to you guys maybe tomorrow, probably not, but yeah, bye-bye.